What's up, guys? It's Josh Lau here with TheCardGuyz, and I'm back home, rested up, ready to recap what happened at Worlds and go over my deck lists and answer some questions you guys gave me on Discord. It is November 9th right now. It is Wednesday. Pretty long trip overall, but had a great time. Met a lot of people. The community is great, and this weekend was one of is a memory that'll stay with me for the rest of my life. Anyways, so I played Bolton in Classic Constructed, and I played Dorinthea, the OG Dorinthea, in Blitz for Worlds. My overall record was 11-5. And I got 32nd place out of, what was it, 370, I think, 370 players. So, good for a cool 2K and a PTI that I can use for next year if I need to. Overall, pretty happy with my performance. Most of my... So, I went 3-0 in the first draft, and then 3-2 in Constructed, 1-2 in the second draft, which to be frank, that shouldn't have happened. There were 2 fives in my pod, and I was one of those fives. I just lost all 3 dice rolls, so can't do much about that. And then I went 4-1 in Blitz. So overall 11-5. So I'm going to go into detail with my deck lists and talk about the games and a little bit about sideboarding and, just go through all the questions you guys give me. I kind of, clipped them here, so I could be running through them. So I guess the first question here from Magic School Bus, why did I pick Bolton for CC? All right. Well, I was having a lot of trouble, actually, with Bolton in CC, right until about 4 or 5 days before Worlds. I was finding that even though I had a very solid matchup against aggro, it was still a little... the 5 matchup was not as advantageous as I thought it was originally. Originally, when I first tested that, it was, probably 80-20 in my favor, but the more and more I played and the stronger opponents that I played against, that became more of like a 65-35 matchup overall. The deck is just really, really quick, and people are playing the Ember Blade version, which I think is correct. When they were playing around with Kodachis, that was a very, very smooth matchup for me in general. Just because that deck is just slower. But the main problem was actually against Oldhim. I was running Raiden into Oldhim, and I was doing okay. But I found out I felt like whenever I played against a top-tier Oldhim... Actually, I'll shout out somebody, Dagon White. When I played against him at the Battle Hardened in Columbus, this was the first time I played against... Not the first time, but one of the times I played against an Oldhim that actually knew what he was doing. He brought in Stalagmite, which I think is correct. He knew how to use his Ice React. And it just became a very, very tough... It was very, very tough to play Raiden mid-range into a competent Oldhim. Basically because you have to play around the Stalagmite Frostbite, and you have to play around the Ice React. It's just really, really, really hard to do both of those at the same time and still output a respectable amount of damage. I joked around with the people at my LGS that basically I was playing a bad Fi deck into a anti-Fi Oldhim deck, which is never going to really work out, right? So I went back to the drawing board, and I decided to play Energy Potions back into my deck, and I decided to go with the combo plan against Oldhim, which I've had good success with in the past. And yeah, I was just like, you know what? Playing Raiden against them is just too hard. I'm just going to play Saber combo, even though that is really quite difficult to pull off too. But it's still gives me the ability to high roll them a bit. Okay. So this is the deck that I brought to Worlds for the CC portion of the tournament. So those of you who are familiar with Bolton there's not too many surprises here. I guess the surprises are that I'm running a few less charge cards. You see there's no yellow engulfing light, no yellow express lightning here. The E-Strike is also, I consider that to be core of my deck. You just have to have this as a... So, E-Strike is very good in both styles. E-Strike is excellent at helping you close the game with sabers, and E-Strike is just a good 2-card hand in the Raiden build as well. So I put that in here. There's also a third Valiant Thrust, just for deck slot's sake. So the sideboard, I guess this is where most of the spice happens here. We have some bolting blades here. This kind of helps us get to the minimum number of cards required. Also good against Dromai. Courageous Steel Hand, this would come in mainly for the Raiden plan, and a few of the Saber matchups, I'd also bring them in. E-Pot against the Ice Heroes, plus Dromai, I'd run this. The Sinks and Fates, these were just generally against the aggro, just to get to 60. Illuminate, this card was a filler card that just made my deck more smooth. Illuminate kind of feels like Sharpened Steel and Dory. The deck doesn't quite feel correct when you don't have this. We have a Remembrance here. This helps out against Oldhim. And I think I also ran this against Icelander as well. We got a copy of Route. This card wins a lot of games. They don't expect it. And yeah, this plus Beacon of Victory gives you a lot of reach. Soul Shield, this is played against a wide variety of heroes, but of note, I don't bring this in against Fi. We have our Sabers and we have our Raiden. We have our Suite of Armor. We play the Helm against Oldhim because we need 4 armor against Oldhim. Because you cannot combo without... you cannot combo properly with a Frostbite. And finally, we have a single copy of Dolorun Gloves just for the Wizard matchups. If you want to check out this deck, it is public right now. It is Raber's Bolton V4 Worlds deck list. I have all the matchups here, all sideboarded for you guys to take a look at. You guys want to play around on Talachar with it, go ahead. I guess I'm going to get this question. What would I cut for Spirit of Arena? Probably I'd cut one of the Bolting Blades, or one of the charge cards would also be a fine choice as well. You could cut the Fate for Scene, I guess, is also fine. Yep, something like that. You could cut the Illuminate. There's many possibilities. There's just take your pick. Okay, so yeah, let's go back here. So why did I pick Bolton? Well, I thought Bolton had a very, very nice position in the metagame, and people weren't expecting him. And even people that are like, I played against several players that were like 17, 1800 elo, and it was very obvious to me that they had no idea what I was doing or how to counter what I was doing, even though they were heroes that were able to interact with my deck. And overall, having such a nice, smooth matchup against aggro just gives you... And you only had to play 5 games with it, right? So if Gem gave me the exact matchups I wanted, I'd be fine, right? Just to go into the matchups a little bit. So I played against 3 Fis. I went 2-1. The loss that I got was probably the slowest I've ever seen my combo. I looked at the... I died on turn 9. I kept... When the game was over, I flipped over, 4 cards to 4 cards to 4 cards to see where my combo was. And actually, 4 of my 6 combo pieces were in a row together, near the bottom of my deck. So, what can you do, right? Some portions of games you're just never going to be able to combo. I also had a loss against Dromai. This is the one where I think actually I could have played this quite differently. So against Dromai, I decided to combo really quickly. Was able to do that, got a pretty big life lead. But I really wasn't able... I think I think in that matchup, because I lost all my Via the Vanguards, I wasn't able to put together a good closer. Especially since the Dromai player healed with Sigil kind of out of beacon range. So that was kind of annoying. I think a Remembrance in the Dromai matchup would have helped me. Because I didn't have the ability to clear multiple dragons or push damage on her. So yeah, that was a matchup I think I could improve a little bit on. And then my final matchup was actually against Oldham. This guy was top 10 in the world on Elo. So one thing with Warriors, you often have to feel out your opponent, see how they react to things. I got a feeling very, very quickly that he did not know what my cure was capable of. And I actually decided to combo him without energy potions on the field, which is obviously a giant risk to do that, right? But I just got the soul read that he didn't have a blizzard. And, you know, I took the gamble that he would crown and not hit blizzard, right? So when I started the combo, he tried to crown for blizzard and he couldn't find it. So yeah, I was able to combo him and, you know, kill him with beacon. Very, very classic victory there. And that's one of the nice things about playing in real life is that you can get a decent read on your opponent. And then you can kind of decide whether or not to combo or not, right? So yeah, overall, I feel like Bolton was in a fine position against the Meadows World game overall. I didn't have to play against any Icelanders with Raiden, but I have played Raiden against Icelander, and it has felt okay. Anyways, let's just move on. So things that are not obvious when playing the deck that make a big difference. So the biggest thing that I can tell you is your post combo game is actually probably the most important aspect. Like, it's not very difficult to do the first part of the game. Especially if somebody gives you the deck list, which I have, with the full sideboard guide, which I have. If you just follow all that, you can get the first two parts of the game down pretty easily, which is executing your combo. So getting to your combo pieces without dying, and then executing the combo. Those two things are pretty easy, right? The only thing that's particularly hard would be against Fi. Learning how to defend against Fi takes some practice, right? Because, you know, you're not really sure what they're going to end their chain with, right? Sometimes they end it with Take the Tempo, sometimes they end it with Lava Burst, sometimes they end it with Snatch, right? So you just got to be kind of aware of all those things, right? So defending their attack pattern can be kind of hard, right? But putting cards into your soul and finding combo pieces, that's not actually difficult, right? The main thing is your post-combo game has to be very sharp, right? Because you're generally going to have full tempo after that, right? But you have to figure out how to close the game. You have to identify quickly what your win cons are and play to those win cons. And oftentimes, if they're in the teens in terms of health, you're going to have to get at least 2 finishers, right? If they're low, you know, you can probably just kill them with beacon, right? But if, let's say, for some reason you don't have any more beacons left, or you're in a position where their life is pretty high and you can't just one-shot them with beacon, you have to know how to close the game out with a Via the Vanguard or, you know, Valiant Thrust or whatever, right? That would be the main thing I would say. Now, if we're talking about Raid and Bolton, this is way more complicated to play than Saber Combo. Saber Combo is mainly about knowledge and, you know, being prepared for your opponent, right? Whereas Raiden, there's a lot of decisions to be made, especially against Icelander. So against Icelander, you often have to set up a situation where you go on a turn that they don't have a lot of disruption. So one thing that you can do to test, so let's say you have your Tunic at 3, right? And what I like to do against Icelander is I'll say, okay, I'll take the Tunic in a response, right? Now, to most people, most people playing Icelander, the alarm bells will go off in their head, and they're like, "Oh my god, he's taking Tunic. He's going to do something with that, right?" And they'll respond immediately with their arsenal card, right? So, but that gives you information about what the level of disruption is going to be for that turn, right? I didn't actually need the Tunic resource. I just wanted to see what you were going to do before I decided to play via the Vanguard double charge, right? So, because Helm of the Sharp Eye is so important, you can't just, use Tunic for V and then continue on your merry way. You actually have to pitch a card for V and the Helm, right? So actually, you don't actually really even need the Tunic. It's just for getting information. So what you can do is you can take Tunic resource, get information about the level of disruption of the Icelander player, and then play your turn based on that. If it's a very, very minor level of disruption, you can pitch your blue, go for via the Vanguard, break your Helm of the Sharp Eye, and if you can get a good V with the Helm of the Sharp Eye off, you normally just win the game indirectly through that. But you have to have a big turn against them. So yeah. All right. Does Dynasty change your thinking about Bolton or Dory, in particular CC? All right. So, obviously, this card, Spirit of Arena, ridiculously good. I talk about this in detail on the actual reveal video. So if you want to know my full thoughts on that, you can go there. But I will summarize it here. This card helps all the Bolton styles. Works nicely with Via the Vanguard. Works as a glint or attack reaction for all your normal charge cards. Allows you to high roll the hell out of people when you go via the Vanguard into Illumina combo as well. Excellent card. Going to be playing it in Bolton for sure. As for the rest of these cards for Bolton, I will talk about Dorinthea shortly. I know I've talked about Bolton a lot, all you Dory fans. I will get to you in a second, don't worry. I don't really see any of these being particularly good. For Bolton, to be frank, there might be some weird axe build, but I don't think that's particularly good. So I think for Bolton, really, he just got this, right? As for Dory got quite a bit of support here. This might see some play as a sideboard card against Wizard. I don't know if it's actually any good. It might just be for Blitz. I'm not actually sure. The Battle Axe and the whole Cleave, Felling Swing, frankly, I don't think the... I mean, this costs 3, right? So let's say you attack with this. You have to give this go again. Okay? It has to hit. Let's say those two things happen. Your Dory ability triggers, you can attack again with it. You still have to pay another 3 for this, right? I don't really see how this at the moment does much. Yeah. Anyways, the Quicksilver Daggers, these are kind of cool. So initial thoughts on this is that this would probably combine with a Centauri Saber and a dagger, and it would make your attack patterns kind of difficult to deal with. So I think that is definitely something I will kind of try out, is Dorinthea with a Saber and a Quicksilver Dagger. The rest of these cards, all right, I'll just pick out a few that I think are very relevant and people have asked me a lot of questions on. So Iron Song Pride, this is probably good enough to play. First of all the red cards have to be pretty good, right? Especially a red card that has no block value, right? It has to be pretty good, right? But the effect on this, I think, is just barely good enough, because if you... Oftentimes, pumping the weapon by 1 is all you need. There are very few heroes that, except Olden with the Earth React, that can, add 1 defense all of a sudden. Unless they have Quell, or, they can make a Spectral Shield or something like that, right? So often going up by 1 is actually enough to make them play their D-React. And this will get 3 points of value in general. If you play this correctly, you'll get the immediate... You'll play this on your first swing, you'll get a point of value there. You'll get to attack a second time. Let's say they block that one out, okay? So you've got 2 points of value already. But you've hit once, so your +1 counter comes to the next turn, and then you attack again. So you've gotten 3 points of value out of this. Potentially you can get more than this. We'll also see. Yeah, so this could be... This was probably good enough. I don't know if I'd play all three. This is a card I kind of just have to play with and see. Blessing of Steel, this card seems pretty good as well. This probably replaces some of the blues in the mana base, just because this is a good turn 0 play, and it's a good. This is another card that can punish them for overblocking. Quite nice. Precision Press, I'm not really sure what this is for. Conditional +3, +2, or +1. I don't know if that's really that good. We'll see. Puncture, I think this one's quite good. So this one can replace Razor Reflex if you're going really heavy on the attack reactions. The red and the blue are both very playable. The Felling Swing, that whole axe archetype, I don't know. We'll see if that's any good. Visit the Imperial Forge. This one, again, I don't think is very good. The blue might be okay, I guess. We'll see. Overall, I'd say there's not actually that much support for Warrior, to be frank. Little disappointed, but you know, there might be enough tools here and there to make something happen. All right. Can you cover the specifics of the Oldhim and Icelander matchup for Bolton? Okay, so for against Oldhim, I like to bring in some attack reacts. Let's view this as a list. All right, so I bring in attack reacts just because you need closing power. Add in the route, obviously, because you're playing combo. And then I go with the Soul Shields and the Energy Potions. Soul Shield, you know, just allows you to charge on defense. Can also mess up their pummel. The E-Pot gives you insulation against Blizzard. And I also include a Remembrance because the game could go really long and you need to maintain your threat density. Against Icelander, I bring in the Steel Hands because I'm playing Raiden. Add in a few Bolting Blades just to up my, yellow count a little bit. The Soul Shields are not amazing, but you can obviously use them since most of the Icelanders are using some sort of a physical attacks. We also have a Remembrance just to make sure we have enough via the Vanguards to close the game. And we obviously put in our Energy Potions because it's a blue. And E-Pot is very good for dealing with things like Insidious Chill. Play AB1. The key thing, like I said before, is to get a good Helm of the Sharp Eye activation off. Okay, let's move on. Talk about your deck and sideboard, exactly what comes in and out from your point of view, and also the meta. So you can take a look here. I have all the matchups listed here. Knock yourself out. Wouldn't mind a recap and thoughts of the event itself and your choice of Blitz. So I kind of talked about the recap. I don't want to go into super details about everything, but overall, I felt I really, really enjoyed the vibe of the event, and just getting to meet a lot of people is amazing. Having in-person events, this is this is what I live for. My choice of Blitz deck. All right, let's move in and talk about Dorinthea now. So this is the build that I went with for the Blitz portion of Worlds. You'll notice that this is a very, very old school build of Dorinthea. Very, very old school. There's no Glistening Steel Blade. There's no run through. Right? Very, very old school. So this deck's running 14 blues. It's running the traditional good blues. It's running the normal attack reacts. Of note, only one overpower, one route. But I guess what separates my deck from the other decks is that I run Sigil of Solace and I run Sink Below. These cards are cards that Sigil of Solace did a lot of work in the Blitz portion. This card messes up Icelander's math so badly. This won me my final round of Worlds, actually. I dropped, down below into the kill range of Emeritus Scolding from Arsenal plus Waning Moon. And, my opponent, I saw his kind of eyes light up when I dropped below 7, right? Or dropped 7 and below, right? And then he went for... He didn't go for Emeritus Scolding, but he went for Ice Eternal from Arsenal, dumping a bunch of resources into it, Waning Moon. And the Sigil of Solace just messed up all his math, right? and allowed me to kill him. Just like how it used to mess up Kano's math. You know, for those of you who've played it for a long time, you guys remember the old school Kano builds, you know, Storm Striders into Stir the Aetherwind, into Fork Lightning with Metacarpus nodes. That dealt 14 damage, right? So if you had AB3 and you dropped below 11, you were dead, right? But I would run Sigil Solace. Shout out to all my Hong Kong Kano players that, you know, taught me how to use this card. Yeah, this card just, you know, is excellent against decks that are trying to get a deterministic win at the end of the game. Sink Below I also feel like is really, really necessary in this metagame with Reinhardt running around. Sink Below is really, really important. Yeah. Other than that, pretty standard list. I do play the Ironsong Determination because I think this is a very, very good way to high roll people on turn 0. And in a 20 life format, this gets a lot of work done, right? Also, this allows you to get their armor, which allows for a... Like, even if your turn is a, you know, very basic, like, Warrior's Valor, Determination, Swing, like, you're going to get a card plus 4 armor. Which just makes your whole life a lot easier. Especially against, like, Oldhim, like, this card is really, really important to have. The equipment, pretty standard equipment here. So, you know, I've been poo-pooing on Crown of Providence. I actually think that this has some use here in Blitz. So I'd run Crown against Reinhardt just because it allows you, if they ever triple into... Hold on, does that... Nope, that does not work. Never mind. I only play this against... I never actually played against Reinhardt in Blitz, but with Crown. Scratch what I said. This only has one purpose. This is against Icelander when I have to go first. So in general, you want to go second as Dory. But if you do have to go first, I just call their bluff and say, you are running Wounded Bull, E-Strike, Snatch, and I know it. So I actually bring the Fridge to battle against them. Except if they go first, then I'll run the Null Rune Hood, right? And so imagine you have Braveforge Bracers, Courage, Crown, and, you know, Refraction Bolters, right? Like, if they send a E-Strike for 7 at you, you're like, thank you, I will block with my Fridge and move on, right? If they are like, oh shit, he has the Fridge, and then they never attack you with their Wounded Bull, they're either blocking with it for 2, or they're pitching it as a red, which is awful, right? So, yep. So that's that. The Tunic, I don't actually even run the Tunic in any of the matchups. I don't know. It's just an extra slot. This can be... You can put whatever you want there. You don't actually need the Tunic. Other than that, obviously you just run the Fridge against most of the other opponents. You run the Gambler's Gloves against KO. Against Kano, you run AB3 plus Bolters. Yeah. Old school build, but it works very, very well. I'd like to know a little bit more about your testing you did after you stopped streaming your practice and how you decided on Raber's Bolton over Chunkinthea. All right, so Chunkinthea, for those of you who've been watching my stream, you guys know what this is. This is a list that's running 14 or 15 of these chunky attacks, hence the name Chunkinthea. PNC, E-Strike, Fendel's Fighting Spirit, Barraging Brawnhide, and Wounded Bull. And the deck would basically try to block 2 and then send a big attack, work the life totals down together. And then once we got to the late game, we'd kind of play it like Blitz, right? Because we've gone through their whole deck, basically. I know that they have no more D-Reacts, or very few left. And, you know, their armor's probably pretty low. And so I can go for a big turn when they're at like 15 to 20 life. With Courage of Blade Hold, Steel Blade Supremacy, something like that, right? And try to close the game in a normal Dory manner. Overall on stream, we did pretty well. I think, you know, we're hovering that 70% win rate or something like that. Overall, I think the deck was fine. The main reason I did not pick this deck and went with the Raber's Bolton is because the Dory deck is a little slow against the aggro decks. And it's very possible that you were just gonna get run over. This deck does not have high roll potential. I guess that's the best way to summarize it. Because this deck does not do anything unfair, it can just lose games to aggro decks, and it wasn't. I also felt like against good Icelanders, this deck was also not particularly good because it gave them way too much time to set up, and the game actually could go to time because the board state late game can get super duper complicated, right? Against Oldhim, this style works remarkably well, actually. So there's that. But I just felt like Bolton was a little bit of a better choice. And, even though I started on Dorinthea, people kind of know me more for my Bolton now. So I was like, I gotta give the people what they want. All right. Future Dynasty thoughts on Warrior. I talked about all the Warrior cards already. Why do you play Warrior over other classes competitively now? Well, I just like the playstyle of Warrior, to be honest. I just like putting my opponents in hard spots. And the whole flow of Warrior games I just enjoy a lot as well. This is the class that utilizes the whole turn cycle and whole link cycle as well. So they're the class that uses the attack reactions. I just like that as well. I just click with this class much better. Like when I played WTR, I clicked with Warrior and Ninja, and I didn't really click with Brute and Guardian. And then when I explored Ninja, like I found out very quickly that I had no natural talent for that. I enjoy playing Katsu, but I don't really have natural talent for playing it, right? But when I, picked up Dorinthea, everything just felt right, right? And, going with your gut and playing what you like to play, I think is really important, especially when we're here to have fun, right? I'm a competitive guy, but I do like to do it in my own way, right? So, I know that if you're a competitive player and you want to, always play the best deck, more power to you. Go ahead, right? But I'm sure there's a portion of players that, are like, you know what? If we're gonna win, we're gonna win doing what I love. And, that's what I tweeted right before I went to Worlds. I'm like, you know what? If we're gonna make it far, we're gonna do it with my original loves, right? Okay, final question here. How to choose AB and not sacrifice damage with Dory? How do you manage that at such a level of competition? Also, what do you think about Iron Song Pride? I talked about that earlier. So let's do the Iron Song Pride thing really quickly. I think this card is okay. I don't know if I'd play it as a 3-of because it doesn't block. But I do think you can get at least 3 value out of the card, which makes it okay. This card is a card that I'm just going to have to play with and see. As for the Dorinthea lists and how to manage the AB level, in Blitz, I would run, if you're going second, I would run AB1. If you're going first, I'd actually just run the Fridge, because the predominant way that Icelander plays in Blitz is with the Bullander style, right? In CC, I would say you would still probably run AB1, but you would also have Oasis Respite, right? So AB1 plus Oasis Respite is actually enough to handle everything. I don't think you need AB2. So what you can do is you can run Bracers, either Tunic or Courage, depending on your deck style. Bolters plus Nullrune Hood, I think, would be best. Yep. So that's that for you there. All right. So I guess that wraps everything up. Again, if you guys want to take a look at these deck lists, they are on Fabry. They are public. They have all my matchups inside as well. So this is the deck list I brought for CC. This one here is the deck list that I brought for the Blitz portion. Yeah, I guess we'll just wrap things up now. So going forward, we're just gonna be experimenting with the new Dynasty cards, and you know, it's kind of an off season, so we'll take it, you know, a little slow. We'll probably be streaming here and there, and you know, putting out some more Fab 201 videos, and maybe going over some deck ideas and stuff like that. Yeah. All right. This has been Josh Lau with the Card Guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. All right, I'm out. See ya.